The house had been making sounds for the 11 years Joanne Parrish had lived in it. Pipes, wind in the eaves, the particular creak of the third step on the back stairs that she had stopped noticing sometime around year 2. She was not a person who startled easily, and she was not a person who investigated every noise. So when she heard a faint rustling from somewhere behind the laundry room vent, a low, papery sound, inconsistent, almost like breathing, she wrote it down in the same mental column as everything else the house had ever done and moved on with her morning. Pearl did not move on. Pearl was Joanne's white cat, 8 years old, deeply unimpressed by almost everything. She had ignored the squirrel that had once gotten into the garage. She had ignored the neighbor's dog that barked every evening at nothing. But for 4 mornings running, Joanne came downstairs to find Pearl sitting directly in front of the baseboard vent in the laundry room, perfectly still, watching it the way cats watch things they have decided are serious. On the 5th morning, Joanne sat down on the laundry room floor next to her and listened. The sound was still there. Faint, soft, intermittent. Not mechanical, not the house. Something else. She got a screwdriver from the junk drawer and took the vent cover off. The duct opening was about 10 inches wide. Inside, barely visible in the dark, was a nest. Shredded insulation, an old sock that had gone missing from the dryer months earlier. And something else. Something small and orange and moving. There were 3 of them. Eyes still closed, maybe a week old, tucked together in a pile at the back of the duct, where the warmth from the furnace barely reached. No mother in sight. Joanne sat back on her heels and looked at Pearl, who looked back at her with an expression that said, "Clearly, this is why I was telling you." She called her neighbor Nora, who had fostered cats for a local rescue group for years and would know what to do. Nora arrived in 20 minutes, knelt in front of the vent with a flashlight, and identified the situation without drama. A stray cat had found a gap somewhere along the duct exterior, crawled in to give birth, and was almost certainly still coming back to feed them. The nest was warm. The kittens were alive. The mother hadn't abandoned them. What Joanne needed to do, Nora told her, was wait. Leave the vent cover off, give the mother a way back in, and check every few hours to make sure they were still being fed. This was not what Joanne had planned for the next 8 weeks of her life. The mother came back that evening, a small gray tabby, skittish and quick, who flattened herself against the laundry room wall when Joanne appeared in the doorway and looked at her with eyes that were all caution and no trust. Joanne backed out slowly. She started leaving food at the edge of the vent. Within a week, the cat was eating it before she had fully left the room. She named her Cinder, though she told Nora the name was temporary and did not count. The kittens opened their eyes at 2 weeks. By week 5, they were climbing out of the duct on their own, blinking at the laundry room light as though mildly offended by it. Pearl supervised from a distance, interested but dignified. Joanne found herself rearranging her schedule around feeding times without fully deciding to. All 3 kittens were adopted through Nora's rescue contact by week 9. Cinder took longer. She was not an easy cat to place. Joanne fostered her through the winter and then through the spring, and at some point stopped calling it fostering. She still isn't entirely sure how that happened. Pearl, she suspects, had it planned from the beginning.